RC family? We back again. Okay, we went over your shock positions. Now I'm just gonna talk about shocks. Um, the first thing is the shocks are the second most important thing next to your tires, as far as like your setup and the thing that you want that we all want to achieve is just to have a good handling, smooth, plush suspension. So the thing is have our dampening smooth. The dampening is just the movement of the shocks up and down with your on your A arms. Just the movement of the shocks. You just want that smooth. You see how mine is smooth up and down like that? You just want that. Just gonna give you a more consistently handling good car overall for your buggy and your truck. For both of them. For your buggy, it applies to you. This applies to truggies, buggies, and fifth scales, even on road, off road, 10 scale stuff. All that we want a good, consistent plush suspension. So whatever condition we rolling in, we driving in, racing in, bashing in, if we want our suspension to be consistent, smooth, and controllable, to be able to control the car. In some situations, you might want more corner speed coming out of a turn. All that has to do with your shocks and some more of your shock positions and stuff that we did in the first video. But today we just concentrating on shocks. And the one thing you notice, like on this shock right here, that you can see how the shock shaft moves in and out of the shock body real smooth, just like this. But notice when I hit it on the table, how the shock shaft stays. It doesn't move. See how it moves in and out real smooth like that? But when I hit it on the table, you notice it like it locks up. But it's locking up like that because it's a thing called pack. And what your pack has to do with is your shock pistons, the size of the hole in your pistons, and also with your shock oils. So if you want more pack, like I have 6-hole 1.2, that's the size of the hole, but it's a 6-hole piston. The 1.2 is the size of the piston hole, but it's a 6-hole piston. So if you want more, if you want to know how to adjust your pack, the pack is good for when you're coming off of jumps and you landing off a big jump, or if you hit a hole, you're going at a high speed and you hit a hole. The pack controls the speed. That's what it is. It's controlling the speed of how fast the shock shaft moves in and out of the shock body. So to adjust your pack, you want good pack, but you don't want too much that it won't let your shock, flow smoothly over little bumps and ripples that the track, imperfect bumps that the track may have in it, or either when you're out there bashing, you might have a section just a little rough, and you notice your car just bouncing around, all around. That might be because you have a little bit too much pack, or you might have not enough pack. Not having enough pack will make your car, when you come off a jump, it'll bottom out. It won't land smooth and controllable. You notice, like when a lot of people you see on videos, people jump like the fifth scales or something like that. You know how it lands and it bounces all around, like with monster trucks and stuff like that. When they come off the jump, the car just bouncing uncontrollable instead of landing flush. It's because of the pack in the shock. The pack, like I said, is just the speed of the shock. The pack is the speed of the shock shaft going up in the shock. Like I said, you can move it smooth when it's at a slow speed, like you're just going over ripples on the surface of the ground or a rough section. It'll move in and out, real smooth. But once you hit like when you hit a jump, your suspension stiffs up because of the pack. When you land, it'll stiffen up and not bottom out if you got good pack. So that's what that is. So that's why it moves freely when this piston shaft, when the shock shaft is in a slower motion. But when you, like I say, when you land off a jump, see how it locks up? That's the pack. And how what's going on to get the pack is like the oil inside the shock body. When you hit it real fast, it causes like turbulence in there. It's not as smooth. This is going deep into it, but it causes turbulence. So that's why it makes it hard for the oil to flow through the holes with that turbulence. It's quickly interrupting the surface of the oil, so it packs up like that. So, but if you move it smooth and slow, see it moves in and out no problem. So yeah, the just pack. If you want more pack, you probably go with some heavier shock oils, or you could go with, like, these are 6-hole pistons. You could go to like a 5-hole or 4-hole piston. But if you have more holes, you're gonna have less pack. If you want a little bit less pack, you make it drop down on your shock oils. And to get that, to adjust that effect of your shocks. So like I said, and this, like I said, all this correlates from every scale, from on-road, off-road, to up to the 5th scales, all that. So take this in mind, take this in mind to when you get ready to adjust your shocks, and just notice how your car is running when you're out there racing or bashing. Notice that, how your pack is. And also the thing to remember also, if you want to, this shock right here has a bladder. You can adjust your bladders too, because when you put your bladder in, it actually traps air, because you put your bladder in with the cone side like down, like this, like that. That's the cone side. So underneath there, take this out. So this part of the shock cap, that's where the air is. So that's why the air is captured here. So when you fill your shock body up with the oil, that's why you want to get all the air out this shock body, so your shock shaft will move, smoothly in and out of the shock body. So what the air behind the shock cap does, behind the bladder, it just allows the bladder, gives your car more traction, especially on high grip. Well, how can I say it? With the bladder, it gives your car, on a loose surface, it gives your car more traction, because it's keeping your tires and stuff planted to the ground. Because that pressure that's going to build up behind the bladder is going to help push your shock back out, also known as rebound. So as that pressure builds up behind the shock cap, it's going to push that shock shaft down and keep your wheels on the ground. So in some cases, when a medium grip track, you may want to run a bladder. It may give you a little bit more grip. But also, if you run a bladder in your shocks on a bumpy track, it's not as good, because it's going to make your tires be more on the ground, and it's going to pick up and fall into all the ruts and holes that's on the track, or either when you're out there bashing, that bladder's gonna push your tires down in the holes instead of sliding over the holes. To adjust that, you can also run a motion style. A motion style is when you have just a seal in your cap. So you just put the seal in like this, put the seal in like that, and just tighten the cap down with your oil in it. And what it is just that air and oil mixed together, but still bleed you. You still want to bleed the oil that's in your shock body, so it still, react, go up and down real smooth. But that emulsion style is basically you can adjust your shock, so it would be, we call them dead shocks. So when it goes up, it'll just stay locked in place like that. It won't come down. It'll just stay locked in place. We call that a dead shock. And you can do that with the motion. With dead shock, it just makes it more stable when you on a rough and bumpy track. So, and a lot of times, even on a high grip track, you'll like that emotion style also to just kind of, it don't make your car that much, it makes your car not as twitchy, not real, it don't respond as fast, so it makes it easier to drive, especially on a high grip track compared to your bladder style. So keep that in mind, and it's a good, like I said, it's a good thing to also keep in mind of the pack effect that your shock has when it's landing. So you want good pack in your shock. So that's why a lot of this stuff, like I said, a good basic setup is what's in your manuals when you get your cars or you get your kits or get your RTRs. Start off with that and just notice how your car is running. If it's acting, sagging too much in the rear, it's bottoming out a lot, then it'll be a good time to go ahead on and to replace your pistons and your springs. Okay, the springs now. Okay, on your springs, if you run a stiffer spring, it reduces traction, but it makes the car more responsive with the stiffer spring, and it makes your car also jumps better with the stiffer spring. But if you go to a softer spring, it just does the opposite. It makes your car more stable, not as twitchy, and it also gives you more traction because your car can move and roll a little more, but it's also be better in bumps. A stiffer spring in the bumps, it'll make your car a little bit more bouncy, not as controllable. So you can go for the softer spring in the front and in the back, and then, like I said, it helps your car corner better on loose tracks, give you a little bit more traction. And also, if you go with the spring that's shorter on the front, it also, it's more, towards for the racer. It also makes you accelerate more, quicker, faster coming out the entry of a corner. So if you run a shorter spring in the front, it gives you that acceleration, more straight acceleration coming out the corner. So keep that in mind too. So like I say, shocks are important, but a lot of this is some things that you are going to have to go to the track and just test for yourself and see what's best. And like I said, my best base setup that I do is run. I run 35 weight in the front and maybe 30 weight in the rear, and that's a good base setup for me. I find that once you find your good standard shock setup, you won't really want to have to mess with it a lot unless the temperature changes. Then if the temperature changes, then like I said, my base is 35 in the front, 30 in the rear. If it's colder, I may run 30 in the front and maybe 25 in the rear. Just when it's colder, you just vary your weight oil, just 5 weight difference than what you would normally run. Just keep that consistent feel of your suspension. But if it's hot, I may start off with 45 in the front and 40 in the rear. So like I said, I'm just varying each weight to the temperature of the air by 5 weights. So just to give it a consistent same feel depending on the temperature, time of the year. Like I said, we just coming out of winter, so I'm running like I said, 35 in the front, 30 in the rear. And then when it gets warmer, more spring, when it gets summertime, I'll probably go up 5 weight in my oil to 45 in the front and 40 in the rear, just so I can keep that good plush dampening. And but that's it, man. Like this shocks, it can get real deep, and you go into it, but just trying to keep it simple and straight to the point. These are the things that just to look out for, little tricks. Like I said, for the motion style, you just would use this compared to your bladder, and your bladder would be good, like I say, on medium grip to up to high grip tracks. Your motion would be good to it's good because the bladder is good because it keeps your wheels on the ground, which will give you more traction, make your car more stable. But if you go to a bumpy track with the bladder, it makes your car not as stable. It makes it not have as much traction because the wheels are constantly going down in the bumps, making it hard to drive, making it unstable. But if you go to a bumpy track, or if it's bumping out, but real bumpy, rough where you're bashing at, you may want to set your shocks up with the motion style, with just the seal. If you don't have any seals like this, you also can just cut out the inner part. Just cut out this part of the shock bladder, and it's gonna be just the same as having this O-ring right here. So try that, y'all. Try that, and all this helps. It keeps from, like I said, I see the fifth scales just bumming, flipping over. I know you're running in grass, and I know the fifth scale tires have the big knobs on it. That's another reason why. Check your shocks. You know what I'm saying? Make sure your shock package is good. And us racers, make sure your shock package is good, because that's the most important thing compared to your tires. Is your shock package. So your shock gain got to be on point. And I know a lot of time in the fifth scales they've turned over because you're running in grass, and I know y'all have those big knobby tires, and that's gonna give you extra more grip. So it's a good thing to do with that. Is also remember, like my first video is, it goes back to with having all that traction, change up your shock positions. Go back to my first video, and it'll show you the video before this one. It'll show you what different shock positions does and help you with having all that, keep it from traction rolling so much. So yeah, y'all. But yeah, pistons are a good thing to do. Back on the pistons, if you have more piston holes, it's gonna give you a little bit less, a less amount of pack, because what it's doing, it with more holes, and if the holes are bigger, it's definitely gonna allow the shock oil to flow through the holes more. So that's gonna give you less pack. But if you go down like a 5-hole piston to a 4-hole piston with smaller holes, it's going to give you more pack. And also with that, you also have to adjust your shock oils in that too. You go with a lot of oil, it's going to give you a little bit less pack. Go with a heavier oil, it's going to give you a little bit more pack. So what else I got? Okay, just say if you're on your pistons, if you go with a piston that has that has larger holes, with the larger hole piston is going to give you more traction, and it goes through the bumps more smoothly, especially the ones you hit fast. So with the larger hole, like I said, the larger hole is going to give you a little bit less pack, so it'll make the shock react quicker because of the larger holes. But the downside to that is with the larger holes, the downside to that with the larger holes, it won't let the car jump as well, and they'll bottom out, especially on the landings of the jump with the bigger hole piston. So keep that in mind. See, like I said, all this stuff, it counteracts each other. But once you're on a specific track that you need larger holes, then it's okay to lose, to maybe lose some a little bit of traction, or a little bit of stability in the car, because you just need it for more grip, a little bit, whatever situation you may need that. You can afford to lose a little bit here to gain more traction, to gain a little bit more dampening, gain a little bit more stability of the car. So keep that in mind. But yeah, other than that, y'all, like I say, this just a little something that I hope I can help someone understand. If you have any questions about anything on the shocks, just leave it in the comment section, and I will get back to you, and I will answer it more clearly. If you didn't understand something, just leave it the comments in my comment section. I will get back to you and help you understand it more. But this is just a basic, a good starting point to learn more about how your shocks work and what it does, and why the holes are how they are, and your shock springs. Like I said, with the shock springs, like I say, with the stiffer spring, a stiffer spring may reduce your traction, but a softer spring may increase your traction. But with a stiffer spring, it will help you jumping and help you land off jumps better. So but when you go to a softer spring, it will give you more traction. It'll be easier to go through the bumps, but it won't jump as well as a stiffer spring. So how that counteracts. And also, again, if you put a shorter spring in front, especially us racers, when we put a shorter spring in front, it gives us more acceleration coming out of a corner. So keep that in mind. And yeah, it's EKJ 24000. We're just going over springs, since on the last video we went over shock position, so we're just going. But yeah, if you ain't ripping, you tripping. Left tie salute. Let them haters be your motivators. Action always speak louder than words. Hey, and treat people the way you want to be treated. All right, y'all. I appreciate it. Like I said, if you got any questions, leave them down in the comments.